Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. Today is August 17th, and this is the August MCC meeting. And we are going to start off with our status agendas. The first status agenda item that we have is the update about the radio frequency for Australia. Sophie, if you wanted to jump us off there just for an update.
Sorry, too many tabs. Yeah, so the update right now is that the NOVA engineering team is beta testing a dual frequency plan. And that's what we're doing. If manufacturers of devices or of hotspots are interested in testing dual frequency plan that is covering both AS 923 and AU 915, I believe they can contact you, Christina. Is that right? Yeah, to get
yes.
join the beta testing plan. We're hoping to beta test for this month and for September and wrap it up at that point. And I wonder if there's any questions about that from this group.
I think I had a question, which is, how does it affect the MCC? Does the MCC need to do anything? Generally, we kind of say, you know, hey, this is the LoRaWAN subcommittee, or even what is the big worldwide LoRaWAN group?
That's right.
The LoRa Alliance.
Yep.
Yeah.
The LoRa Alliance, it doesn't affect the MCC at all. It's really just an update because we do monitor radio frequencies and we speak with the community and answer questions. And so it's really just a status update. And I'll put the links to the Discord updates in the channel.
I've been fielding some. Sorry, go ahead. I've been fielding some questions from NOVA Engineering on the possibility of running a split band gateway where say 4 channels are in one band and another 4 are in you know, not a continuous band but a different band, and it might be possible, but I don't have a final answer yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this has been contentious. Whoever's been involved with this, I have been hearing it's like a lot of trying to solve a lot of concerns. Not easy. So appreciating anybody who has been on that task.
Yeah, we appreciate anyone who's helping us out with, helping us out with beta testing as well. You know, it'd be really good to satisfy as many people as possible and keep all the devices working that can be. Yeah, I mean, this feels like a good solution to move forward.
Okay, thank you, Sophie, for the update on that. The next agenda item I just added in here. I just want to say thanks for everybody, all your hard work on the MCC. Wanted to also check in to make sure that there's any kind of like organization stuff that would be more helpful as far as like reviewing new applications. I know that we started doing the interviews with the new manufacturers before the final voting. I just wanted to check in and make sure that's all working with everybody, if anybody had any comments.
I like talking with the new applicants. Oh, Sophie, you got more.
No, I mean, you can kick it off.
Yeah, just affirming that, especially those pre-meetings, which I think the working group is organizing, or maybe it's not. I've not kept track of who has been organizing. Now I have more clarity of it.
Yeah, it is the working group
Okay.
The security working group.
It definitely helps us just set the expectations and really make it clear,
yeah.
Which I think can only be helpful.
Just to clarify, so for anybody watching, there's technically 2 types of meetings. There's one set up by the security working group for manufacturers that have already been approved, just to kind of go over some stuff with them and some, you know, how everything works, what to look out for gaming. But there's also, we've done, I think we have 3 now, there's one later this afternoon, for new manufacturers before they are actually approved, that the MCC has sat down and met with them and just talked with them before taking a vote. So kind of that like extra step.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, because even I was slightly confused.
I just wanted to offer up a suggestion of 2 places, and Christina and I have already spoken about this, but 2 places that I see a bottleneck in our workload that I feel that we could improve upon. One is in the HIP-19 process. We have nearly every manufacturer leaves information out or puts in the wrong information. And I spend some of the time of the hardware audit going through the HIP-19 and communicating with the manufacturer and really, I think it's every single manufacturer. So that really indicates to me that there's something lacking in our process, right? It's not really if every manufacturer can't follow the HIP 19 template, it's something, and I think GitHub is very confusing, and Markdown is very annoying, and et cetera, et cetera. I believe Christina and I, or Christina, you made a form for this that I think will streamline the process.
Yeah, so what I was actually working on this week, and I'll send this over to everybody, it's actually done as of last night. But I put all of the questions from the HIP 19 GitHub, as well as the public diligence document that we have manufacturers fill out, and put it all in one streamlined form. So that way we have everything that's public information all in one area to look at. And it also requires manufacturers to not leave anything blank. So each question requires an answer. And then that also gives us an opportunity where we can take it off of GitHub, and I can still publicly post it so the community feels like they have visibility on everything, but then it's a little bit more organized. I have run into several people who have had issues with GitHub and just it's a little confusing, or it gets posted weird and just some stuff like that, in hopes that that would kind of also help streamline things. And it forces manufacturers to also separate their applications. So if they have a full hotspot, they have to do a new one for a light hotspot, whereas before there's been some just confusion around that I think this might help clear up.
Totally. And another area that I think we have a bottleneck in, and I wonder if we have ideas here in this committee, which is right before approval, we look at everybody's radio certifications. And we're actually looking for, we're looking for FCC, it's pretty clear. We're looking for the same things, a certain type of testing, a certain power level, the correct frequencies, and so on. And so a checklist for probably most of the countries that we deal with, CE, FCC, maybe RCM for Australia. We're looking at LBT now for Japan and South Korea to look for the chips. Like some of the stuff it's hard for us because we're getting it as a group, like asynchronously. People are looking at, or I'm looking at these forms like sort of on the fly. It would be a lot better if we had a checklist and somebody kind of looking at you, Keenan, was assigned to go through the list, or rotating as well, right? Like someone just goes through all of them through a checklist before it gets to the MCC. Because we have all these long conversations about it, which are really unnecessary. It's like, is the information on the report or isn't it? It shouldn't, and also there shouldn't be 9 people looking at one report. I think that's unnecessary. So thoughts about how we can make that process better.
I mean, I love the idea of simplifying it, and you're right. I have tried to read through some of those reports and my eyes glaze over immediately. And I'm an RF geek. So it's because it combines regulations with RF, and so part of it's math and part of it is just the lingo that each regulatory agency uses for some of these, and some are just wildly divergent. So having someone go through and say, hey, MCC, I've gone through this report. It does go through the checklist. I'm telling you all for that. What do you think? Absolutely open to that. That is work for someone to do, though. So
it's also work to create a checklist.
Yeah.
As long as there is a checklist and we can try to focus on what's to verify on each HIP 19, totally agree. It helps to keep focus. I myself, when I'm reviewing some of the applications, they're totally different. If we can build a checklist with all the points we have to check, we can rotate and going through the applications.
Yeah.
So I think we have 2 people here who are Patrick and Brad, who are really like radio experts. Do you think, Patrick, if we made a checklist, you could approve it? Like if we started with FCC?
Yes, that would definitely help. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that's the starter. We start on a Google Doc. I'm actually going to be out for the next 2 weeks, but I'm happy to do it when I get back. I mean,
okay.
Definitely take on making a checklist when I get back, just for FCC, and running it by you, Patrick. And that means
okay.
2 weeks, maybe we
speed up things. Okay.
Speed things up.
Okay, great.
And Keenan, if you have any interest in getting involved here, I think, there's definitely room for, we need help with this.
Absolutely, I can definitely help out.
Also, just to jump in here for the recording's sake, for everybody, sorry I didn't introduce you in the beginning. Keenan is the Helium Foundation. He is one of our community managers who's jumping in to listen and to kind of help out with some of the MCC stuff. So the next point that we have on our agenda is the MCC charter. Kind of we've discussed taking a look at that and what that means for defining the roles a little bit more, how many members we really want to have. I think we have 6 or 7 MCC applications right now that the MCC is reviewing that we're going to reach out to those people and set up some calls and talks with them. But if anybody has any thoughts on what we can do and I guess improve on, or anything we want to add to the charter, how many members do we think we should have? How many is too many? Thoughts there?
Sure, I'll kick off. I think I'd like to see no more than 11 members. I'd like to see an odd number of members so we never have a tiebreaker. I'd like to see some kind of term limits so that nobody is doing this thing for more than a year at a time. We're always getting fresh blood in here. Maybe we stagger those since it's the first year right now. But those are off the bat, those are kind of see as far as organization.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for, especially we've got sub roles within here too, rotating those around. Like I am chairperson. It's been a year now. There's a nice boundary. Definitely appreciating. It is a lot of work. How do we rotate that role? Do we even need that role? Things like that is definitely stuff I want to visit too. And yeah, absolutely. No one should be dictator for life. That's for certain for me.
I think 11 people may be unrealistic.
You think it's too many?
I think it's unrealistic that we may get 11 people.
No, what I'm saying is no more than 11 people. And then we just have some minimum, say 3 or 5 for any given vote. Like you have to have at least 5 votes in any given direction for that. And
establishing a quorum.
Yeah, thank you.
For votes is how you do that. So we have a general body. If everyone shows up, hey, that's amazing. Recognizing that not everyone's going to show up for everything. So having a minimum required to have any one thing go through. Some special reorganization topics or any other contentious vote might require everyone to really be present. So do a majority there and things like that. But I think in parliamentary style procedures, we can handle the body size being separate from the actual minimum function size too.
How many voting members do we have now?
7? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as a suggestion, since it's, well, for some people it's been a year and some people it's been less, like at a year, you can self-check out. Right? I mean, that would be.
I mean, it's a volunteer body. Anybody can check it at any time.
That's true. But at a year,
it's not slavery.
It's a nice transition time to be done with your term.
I'd like to say, like,
your tour of duty.
When you come on, you expect to serve between 1 and 2 years, no more than 2, and you expect to serve at least 1. And until that is becomes some kind of full-time whatever foundation paid position, etc. As long as it's on a volunteer level, we should make sure we're respecting the volunteers' time and effort. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like a lot of the sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the 1 year role limit for chairperson, right?
Yeah, yes, please.
And maybe that's a specific role limit for the chairperson, is that may have a shorter term than others just because it is such a high demand position.
It'd be also just great to talk about what that role is. We've sort of made it organic. I think it's sort of bigger. I made it smaller. What is that role? What importance does it do? Those are worthwhile conversations too.
Got it. Yeah, because you've added a bunch of kind of technical expertise to that role, but it probably doesn't need it. It's probably more of like a kind of talking and managing role. It is requiring the deep technical expertise that you have.
I agree.
Although they've done a great job. So maybe you should keep going for another year or two.
No more. Well, we're just floating ideas. any more ideas? I feel like you can always see me trying to progress, like, what motion should we do? Let's do something here right now. So do we feel we should talk about this more, agree that we're going to talk about more, which is my favorite way of saying, well, we're clearly not
Well, can we
getting
have a
anything done.
specific number that we vote on right now? Is it, I mean, I think it's 5 right now, but I'm not sure.
How
Just sort
about
that out
this sort of ground rule? If whenever we're going to do anything that's like meta, involving changing the process itself or our composure, I think it should be a gigantic vote. Like, it has to be 2/3 of the quorum or something. Kind of like I'm again, you love me and my history nerdery, but you know, the U.S. government is set up so that the meta law, aka the Constitution, the laws that govern the laws that can be created, cannot be changed without a massive overmajority, everyone agreeing. 3/4 of the states, 2/3 of the Senate, 2/3 of Congress, something like that. So if we do any of these things, we're going to say, let's change or set in stone how the mock MCC operates. We have to do so in like a massive 2/3 or even 3/4 vote, which I think we can easily achieve. I don't think there's any problem about that. But I do want to set in precedence. Like, things can get out of control if we just have like a majority vote on something that is massive about how the.
Okay, what about a minimum vote then? So I mean, I think it, like the, yeah, let's do the minimum. Like, what is the minimum number of votes that is needed to do any kind of decision, or any reasonable decision?
So I just want to
Well,
jump
they're two
in for
different
just
kinds of
one
decisions.
second. Currently, the way that it's structured, and I think this is laid out in the MCC charter, is that it is 2/3 required to pass. So like for the new people who are the manufacturers that are being voted in, currently, I think that number is 5 out of the 7 votes. So it's 2/3 is what we're currently doing. Just to add that there.
Cool.
So it's working. So there we do. Big thing then is the term limits and the maximum number of people on the MCC. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that's not in the charter?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think the only other point is maybe defining whatever that chairperson role is, and if there's any other, like, you know, if we want to have more members, you know, currently right now Jameson is a non-voting member. You know, if we want to have like a certain limit of how many voting members we have versus how many non-voting members that just kind of sit in and weigh in. Some of that's laid out in the charter, but maybe we can just make a decision that everybody commits to looking at it over the next week or two, you know, or when they have time, that we can kind of before the next meeting lay that all out.
Yeah, it may be even a little bit more stringent. By the next meeting or at the next meeting, we will vote on these items. How about that? Some of these I'm okay kind of saying now. I mean, I'm on board putting the maximum size and making it an odd number. I love that idea. Which probably meant that say maximum number of voting members, is we haven't talked about, you know, what about our advisors or any general consensus here of what we should do right now.
Jeremy, I missed what you said, what you think we should vote on at the next meeting.
Vote now to vote on the next meeting and saying we should decide now what we should commit to voting on by the next meeting or in the next meeting at latest. So okay. I'm asking everyone, what are things we've...
Can I just propose that the group be limited to 11? And if we don't like that, you can vote against it at the next meeting. And if everyone's cool with it, then we just let it run.
Yeah, so let's make that one of the items. I'm for that right now. If anybody wants to mull over it, then we just...
I agree as well.
I'm okay. Yes.
Oh, you don't need this.
Cool. Also propose that we got a term limit of 2 years. So after 2 years, you get knocked off for a year. If you guys don't like that, we can vote against it. But I think it's probably pretty important, like, propose stuff now. And if you don't like it, let's change it. But let's not vote to vote. Let's just kick the kid down the road too much. Anyone against a 1 or 2 term that's like totally reasonable, or at least worth considering?
I want to make sure we have something in place so that when people are termed out, you know, we have good pool candidates to fill in whatever expertise they're bringing in.
Okay, if we're looking right now, we've got 7 applicants, one of which seems spurious. So we got 6 applicants. I think we can keep enough in there that we don't have to worry about not having enough people.
Yeah. 2 feels safe to me.
The issue is not that much about the amount of people, but the speciality. We have 3 people that really understand the RF. If those three get to the 2 years term and leave, and we don't have adequate replacements, that will decrease our ability to analyze that part of the information. So it's not only the number of candidates, but also what they bring to the table. Me and Nick are the less expertise in radio frequency, but for instance, Patrick, Brad, Jeremy, you guys are the core of the technical part. I don't know if there should be a term definitely for you.
Right. I mean, I think it's about us attracting enough people that we have a wonderful candidate pool to always rely on. So I don't know. I'm not comfortable setting the mandatory limit yet. I'm worried we're missing
I've got
something.
I got a question then. So there's one clear position, which is the chairperson. There's also
Yeah.
a position that's pretty clear that we need at least 2 people, which is an RF expert. So that's 3 spots right there. And then to me, and this is where I'm hoping you guys will weigh in, is that there's at least another 2 positions for what I would call a technical expert, not technical terms of geek, but I'm not sure what you would call those folks. And that's 5 people right there who are kind of at least to make the core of technical decisions. And then there's probably at least 2, let's call them like community member positions, which right now, Felipe, I don't think you'll have a problem with me and filling those, where we're technical enough to understand what's going on, but we're certainly not technical experts. So if we take those, what is that, 7 positions, that's probably a decent start. And I could put those in the notes. That's chairperson, what did I say, 2 RF, 2 technical, and 2 community. Does that sound reasonable?
Let me fill in.
Way off there?
I think it sounds pretty reasonable. Let me describe a bit more what the community are. They're good communicators, but also they are people who have done actual deployments and have actually seen the whole process, who are real users of the network. That's what you also bring, Nick. It's not just communication and non-geekiness, as you like to say, but a lot of power in actually being a real user and being on the end of that and understanding the challenges of deploying things and trying to start things up. So that's another great thing that I think is important to always have in there.
Is there anyone else or any other position that you guys can think of that you would like to make sure that we kind of carve out space or time or a call out for on this? And is there a better way of calling it someone not a geek but a technical person who's not an RF?
Yeah.
I see you guys talking
maybe
about computers and boards and all that stuff.
Yeah. Manufacturing, is an important part. Someone who understands what is technically possible and what is not possible in a manufacturing process, and especially about, like, if we set a standard about what manufacturers need to do, understanding if that is scalable or not. I don't know if that's part of technical ability, which we have as a sub bullet point I'm reading off the screen here, or if that is a separate role just called manufacturing. And Christine has put in security. Yeah.
Security.
I mean, these are all great traits to have.
What were you going to say, Sophie?
Oh, I was just saying, instead of hardware or whatever you called it, technical geek, it's like hardware generalist, which kind of covers everything.
Cool.
And it's kind of what I say, right? It's like all the different things from a sort of not super deep perspective.
So I can see that we could put these in as like guidelines. Hey, MCC, whoever you are at the moment, remember, the original group found this makeup to be really good idea, but it's like, how do you enforce this? That would be another layer, which may not be possible. It may simply be a guideline as like, here's what you should consider when doing the future makeup of the MCC, right? And that's all we can do is publish that. A future note to whoever it is, ourselves.
I mean,
good.
All of that or something like that is on our application. Like when you apply to be a member of the MCC, it says some subset of that.
Yeah. Let me ask Patrick, as our kind of official radio geek here, is like, how do you think about A, how long you were able to do this, and then B, how you would choose to look for a replacement or approach this?
You know, I have no problem doing this for, you know, a lot beyond the 2 years. You know, we should be able to find, you know, maybe somebody else inside Semtech, maybe one of the field applications engineers. Should be able to find somebody. Yeah. So I can definitely start, you know, start thinking about it, start poking around, asking people.
As this list comes together, I'm seeing that some stuff there, like there aren't term limits on the contract. Maybe you serve on the chair until you're, 94. But there are other pieces where it's like, yes, every year we're going to change the chairperson. But that will always change every year. Maybe that chairperson.
I mean, I'm kind of
only
liking
comes
that
from
because I've seen that in use in a lot of metropolitan governments, like the role of, in some cities in the US, the role of mayor is actually drawn from the supervisors, and it's a rotating role, which is kind of wild. I mean, that's where I kind of got this idea of at least maybe rotating chairperson out. That role rotates among the members who are willing to do it, or maybe we all, it tacitly vote it or something like that, but that it does come up once a year.
Interesting. And so you would have to serve here on the MCC first, or you think that doesn't? I don't think that matters.
Oh, you'd have to be an MCC member, almost the same way that, like, in parliamentary governments, the head of state, what is that called?
The prime minister.
Prime Minister.
Thank you. The prime minister is actually a member of who was elected first by their community as a regular seat in the House, and then the House comes together and says, "All right, we're going to make you the prime minister." Or in the U.S. governmental system, go ahead, Felipe.
But before thinking about how we rotate, I think it's crucial to define what the chairperson role means and what it involves. Because, for instance, if it requires us a direct connection with the Nova team or doing the liaison with them, only a few people will be able to do it, and it can rotate among them. If it's something more generic, it might rotate across the whole team. But the first thing is to define what is the role, what are the implications, and what are the requirements, so that from the whole team, the appropriate members are selected, and then it rotates within that pool. Yeah,
the role has to be defined first, so we know what we're talking about. To jump right in that, this person does not have to be particularly technical. I think I'm right on with Nick. They do not have to be liaison with any other group. Their primary role is kind of to run things, make certain things are going forward, that decisions are being made. In some sense, to run the meeting, but I don't do that in many cases. I make Christina do that, or she bubbles it up into that vacuum that I'm providing. Those are things that I think would be great to have. When I think about what a chairperson does, they don't really have any special powers, but to kind of keep things rolling, and to also say, all right, that's enough talking about this topic, let's vote, or let's table it, or do whatever. So if someone can come up with a better description of that, or counteract me. It's almost like manager.
It's like almost a moderator within the mock, or in charge of getting process administrative control. Yeah.
And another thing that I think chairperson needs to do is be a good technical writer, or at least writer, because whenever the MCC makes decisions and we need to publish it, the chairperson should be really in the front of, like, collecting that and being the voice of the MCC when needed to be in outside of the MCC. That's another part of that role. So I don't mean technical. I mean communication, writing skills, authoring announcements, or working with the rest of the group to start the announcement, have input on what needs to be edited, but being the one who publishes it, or at least causes it to be published, I think is another part of that role.
Cool. Anything else that we're missing that you guys aren't thinking of? I think that's enough to kind of chew on for now. And we can define things out. But I put all the stuff we talked about in the notes. Christina and I are racing to make notes.
Yeah, I'm looking at.
No, I appreciate it.
My
You
eyes
definitely
off
got some
screen.
good
I'm
ones.
just reading.
I appreciate the two of you for taking notes.
Cool. Well, in that role, it sounds like we're gelling towards it, but you know, we're gonna need more time. And we're officially over a normal end. We did start late, but I don't think see anything pressing we have to work on now. But I think we're generally on board with at least, hey, today we set the maximum size of the MCC at 11, and we're all cool with that. We're not there yet, right? But did we get officially 5 people voting in here approving that?
Yes.
I'm for it. Are you okay with that, Patrick?
Yes, I am.
And Sophie? Felipe, did you hear the question?
I said I agree with that.
Okay, so we've at least passed that. Yay, we did something. All right, I think that's sort of enough on that, unless anybody's burning desire that we have to do more, because we've got some other things on here, and we have yet another meeting. Go
Yeah,
Nick.
let's knock this next thing out. There's 3 makers with 0 onboarding credits. What do we need to talk about there?
Yeah, let's expand that. So let's see. You know, as everybody knows, every maker is in charge of funding their maker key with enough data credits to onboard hotspots. Because every hotspot they onboard technically costs 50,000,
50 US dollars equivalent, right?
50 US dollars, whatever that is in data credits to do. And for that to happen, their key has to be funded. Usually the maker funds it themselves by doing a burn. So there appear to be 3 makers right now who have 0 credits, which means if they have any customers with outstanding hotspots, they will not be able to be onboarded.
Who are the 3?
From what I understand as of Monday, it was I think Midas, Pisces, and Hummingbird are currently at 0 data credits for onboarding.
Does anybody know how long they have been that way? I know some makers have automated processes where they chunk things in and it gets to close.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly about the time frame. That was just the update I have.
As a counter argument of whether this is alarming or not, maybe they have no outstanding units, have stopped production for a time being. It is entirely possible. And it's entirely possible people are sitting there with their hair on fire, not able to onboard and should be. So,
Just trying to clear things, is anyone in front of a computer that can check on Explorer if they are still on 0 or if they automatically burn some credits?
I will do that.
Just, sorry, I'm driving, but if they have already data credits, it's a non-issue. If they remain with 0 data credits, then we might have something to worry about.
But if everybody's onboarded, you know, how do we figure that out, I guess? Yeah.
Explorer keeps changing on me. Let's see.
You know, they might have stopped, they might have sold everything they had and decided not to build any new products.
I believe we cannot do it right now, but we can do a query and see if all the keys generated have been onboarded, right?
We can. All right. So let's see. I'm checking up on here. I'm going to look for who's at 0 and who's really low. As terms of 0, Helium Original, which is those are the OGs. That's fine if that's at the 0. There's no more to the last. We've got 2 new makers who've just onboarded. They have 0. I'm not seeing any other 0s. I'm seeing some lows. So did you say Pisces is one of them?
Yeah, and that was Monday, so it's very well they could have updated that.
Today being Wednesday, there are now 5 onboards remaining. They have 28 million DC in there. So Pisces has donated in some. Who else were we saying?
Hummingbird and Midas.
Hummingbird goes under a different name, right?
Yeah, it's
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough has 10 on board, so they got 50 million DC right now.
Keenan just dropped it in the notes. How many
Right.
I think,
All right,
I
so
think getting to 0 is only a red flag if it remains in 0 for like 3 or 4 days. If it's a momentary situation, it can perfectly happen.
okay, well, it looks like it's resolved in all of them, so we can move forward. No big issue here.
We got 5 minutes left till our next call.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the end of the agenda because the application for process, we have already kind of discussed that previously.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. We'll see you guys in 5 minutes.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye bye.